Hello, orchestration class. This is Jamey here. I'm looking forward to working with you a little bit more on your project, your final project for orchestration class. Today's topic is going to be form. What do we mean by form when we talk about this? Really, what we mean is really you are going to, depending on which tune you chose, go 2 or 3 times through the entire song or tune and use different techniques to vary the melody and harmony. We've already talked about those in the last 2 videos. This one, though, is about form. So what kind of form is available to us? Well, you might think of this a little bit like a theme and variations, okay? Although you don't even have to get that technical with varying the theme that much. We're probably going to more state this theme 3 times or 2 times, depending on which tune you chose. The variations could be as simple as you want them to be. Remember, you're going to use very simple ornamentation techniques or varying the rhythm just slightly, or maybe varying the harmonic rhythm like we saw in the past videos. So make sure you go back to your description of the project to see how many times you have to score your tune. Okay, is it 2 times through? Is it 3 times? Then you want to start thinking, what can you add to this that would make it special, that would make it unique? You have to use at least one special technique from the list that we're going to go through today. The first part we're going to talk about is introductions, because a good introduction can be pretty interesting. The second one we're going to talk about is interludes. You can put musical material between these different melodic statements. And then endings. What ending are you going to use? You're going to use one of these techniques. Now, what's really cool about this is sometimes you can double dip on these. Sometimes an ending would make a really good introduction. And I'll show you. Here I have, we're going to go back to Amazing Grace here. And what I've done essentially, here's my first idea. Well, let's bring back that. First idea, and the most obvious really, is use the last phrase of the melody. This is a real common technique. But remember, you have all the different things that you can do, stretching the musical material out, changing the harmonic rhythm, etc., that you can do on these introductions. So let's see what I did here. I took the last statement of the melody. Okay, let's listen to that. And then you would come in with a melody. Really, that's pretty common sense, isn't it? But you can do a lot with that. So don't forget these simple techniques can be really effective when you do this. I do these techniques all the time. Now, here's one that you might think of. Now, remember, again, this could be used for the intro could be used also as an ending or as an interlude. Okay, so this is called the vamp. Okay, this is a great way to start a piece. Just set up your accompaniment pattern. If we look at this accompaniment pattern, really it's kind of a piano figure. Can you imagine how you could score this in an orchestra? You could have double basses, maybe pizzicato on that F. Okay, cellos coming in boo doo doo with the other figures here. And you could have low woodwinds or bassoons, bass clarinet in on that. clarinets on these boom, 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 bing, in on this upper figure. So sometimes figuring out these accompaniment patterns can help you just know how to score your piece. Let's listen to this one. It's a vamp. Really, it's a 1 chord to a 4 chord, over and over. You get the idea. Why not start it that way? It has a little rhythmic drive. It's a little bit fast for my taste. Imagine how that might sound a little slower. Let's try that. You get the picture. Now, another possibility is doing this, combining some of these techniques. What if I combine the last phrase with that vamp? Now I'm also going to do this. I'm going to take one of our techniques that we did from the last videos. I'm going to alter the harmonic rhythm in one place. Let's see if you can see where that is. It'll stand out, I think. And so on. Then we're into the tune. So you can see that I've used very, very simple ways of varying this last phrase. Now, here's some possibilities too. Newly composed original material. If you're squeamish about that, no pressure. But there are a lot of real creative things that you can do. If you want to hear a kind of creative introduction to this, you might go listen to Frank Kelly's wind ensemble version of Amazing Grace. It's a really nicely done arrangement. Pretty famous in the band world. So Frank Kelly, Amazing Grace. Go hear how he introduces this. So remember that you can use all those harmonic and melodic development techniques, and you can think of something pretty special. Now, you don't even have to use the harmonies that I'm using, major sevenths and such. You can just use basic triadic harmony. Remember, the goal is to get a good orchestra arrangement out of this that sounds good and is scored effectively. Interludes. This is a cool thing. You might think, how can you do an interesting thing between the ending of one chorus and the beginning of the next? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go over to my piano arrangement that I've done, and this is Dr. Nudgear playing on this. I modulate in my version of Amazing Grace, and I hope you've gone and listened to this, because this should be kind of what your piano score might look like. Actually, it's probably going to look better than what yours looks like, because it should be just a sketch. It can be messy. It can be you throwing ideas on there, just as long as you know how you're going to get through this piece. Okay. Now, I do a couple things on this list. I use a modulation. I modulate from F to B flat. So you can imagine how easy of a modulation that is. Basically, my F becomes a pedal of the new dominant. So I turn my F major into an F7, which goes directly into B flat. Pretty easy, right? So you can think of other ways to do that. A lot of keys that are possible can have some real creative ways of getting to that 5-1 of the new key. remember that you need to set the new key signature in your whatever program you're using. Now, remember, we already did the vamp thing. So a vamp could be a new way of getting into the next section. We already did that on the introduction. So why not make that an interlude? You could do a combination of the above. And also you could use newly composed original material. That's getting pretty advanced, but somebody in the class might want to take a stab at it. Okay, let's listen to a couple of these things that I've done with Dr. Nadgir's playing of this. Notice that I don't even have an intro on this piano version, but I can tell you this, for class on Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to have an intro that I wrote, and I'll show you it. Little accompaniment pattern there. This is basically a two-part writing section. Can you imagine how I might score that? Here's the pedal, F pedal. And look at triads. So can you see how I moved from F into B flat? Now, this has some real possibilities here. I'm looking at the last stanza of page 1. And I have these strong Fs here in the left hand. Can you imagine how I might score that? I'm looking at that and thinking it would sound really good to have contrabasses playing a tremolo. I don't have to do that octave tremolo like the piano is doing, but they can be using that. Also, my timpani could take those boom, boom, boom. They could be doing the roll on that. And we're going to talk a lot about how to score these triads for the orchestra, because we want to build these. And I'm going to treat each one of these members of the triad here, the three-part writing, as a different voice. You've kind of been getting a little careless as a class with your voices. And we're going to talk a lot about effective scoring for those. Okay? But I don't make it just a big pedal. I do put in some different twists here. So there is some original material in that. Now, here I come up to the B flat section. So we've had this really nice interlude. It's a pedal, but it has a little bit of original material. And it helps us get into B flat. So we've extended the form just a little bit, right? We've put something new on the end. Here's the B flat section. Now, notice my accompaniment figure here. It's really a waltz figure, isn't it? The right hand uses a lot of triadic writing. Actually, the right hand is in octaves. It's a triad doubled with a melody doubled down an octave. Notice when we have these moving notes, I'm only in unison. Okay, so that piano scale, I might change that. I'm not sure. We'll talk about this in class. We'll actually score this. So notice I'm into the waltz figure here. And then I do put in some bass walk downs, some other things we've already seen from the past videos. Okay, so what's going on here? This is an ending, right? If I go back to my sheet with these endings, here are some of the things that you might try. A tag ending. So what is a tag ending? It's basically repeating that last phrase. So I'll go back to F. Now I state that again. Right? Basically, give them the same thing again, maybe a little bit varied, and then move on to your ending. Let's see how many times I do it, because actually I'm doing a tag ending up here. Some of the other ideas I have here on the list, a stinger. What's a stinger? We all know from listening to a Sousa march. A real quick short chord. That would be effective for some of you who chose something a little bit faster of a tune. Maybe I have a march on there, I think. So you could choose that for your last figure. Ending with a vamp, okay? Going back to our vamp figure. And then, of course, last chord. Let's not forget just going to that final chord, usually a retard on that. A pedal is a great thing to do at the end. Now remember, we talked about pedals in the harmonic section, the last video, and imagine ending okay? So sometimes you can pedal on the 1. Perhaps you want to get to your 5 chord and do a pedal for a while. What's really cool about that, remember, you can play just about any diatonic triad with either the 1 pedal or the 5 pedal underneath, and it works. Stretto, some of these are, you remember that from looking at fugues from music theory. Stretto is when you have a repeating of the motive, or right one after the other, repeating it, and they kind of overlap. Very, very cool effect found in Bach fugues and contrapuntal writing. Special cadences, remember, maybe you want to try a deceptive cadence, maybe a plagal cadence, something like that. A combination of techniques, and this is where it really gets cool. You can try a bunch of different things. So let's see what I do here in my arrangement. So let me go back just a little bit. Almost like a stretto, isn't it? Now, I posted the link for this arrangement on the D2L site, and it'll take you to the YouTube recording of it. I actually do something like a stretto. I'm having this boom, 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 boom. I have overlapping key centers in here. Kind of works out pretty cool. Notice that here the motive is in B flat, but underneath the motive is the E flat. So if you so you get this effect of that's the effect of that whole tonality there. I do the same thing with the key of E flat and then A flat underneath it. So this is really a fancy way of saying I'm doing a tag. And then I have a kind of a special cadence down at the bottom. Instead of going 4-1, I sort of go 4. Kind of a colorful chord there to the 2 chord. And then to the 1. Okay, sorry for my piano playing there. I'll let you take a look at that. And I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of the possibilities that you can go with this arrangement. Okay, I look forward to seeing you this coming week, where we will spend a little bit of time on scoring your final project. Here's what I'd like you to remember. I will be here doing class on Monday, Wednesday morning this coming week. That will be the 20th and the 22nd of April, 8 a.m. And then I will be available for my office hours between 9 and 10 on both of those days. But if you want to meet with me to have me look at your project, here's what I would ask of you. Do not make an appointment with me if you have not watched these videos, nor if you haven't read the chapter in the book. You must be completely prepared and have thought about your arrangement, and you're ready to hit the ground running and have thought of some ideas for your piano sketch, okay? So with that said, have a great time working on these. Be creative, but also try to be really clear in what you're doing, okay? I hope you all have a good day and you're all healthy, and we will see you this next week. Bye now.